All right, so the topic for today would be singular value decomposition. And if we can manage time, then we will also cover CUR decomposition today. Mm, This will be mostly understanding the decompositions, particularly the singular value decomposition. We'll do the applications of these in the later classes. Okay. So this is how the singular value decomposition is defined. If A is an M cross N matrix with rank R, then there is a factorization of A in the following manner. That A is M cross N, you can factorize it as U sigma V transpose, where U is M cross M, okay, and U is M cross M, sigma is M cross N, and V is N cross N. V transpose is N cross N also, where U and V are orthogonal matrices. That means their columns are orthogonal to each other and have norm 1, and sigma is a diagonal like matrix. We'll see in a while what we mean by this. So since sigma is not a square matrix, it may not be exactly diagonal, but only the diagonal entries can be non-zero. Everything else is a 0. Okay, and then how will sigma be? The sigma can be defined as sigma equal to sigma ij, where sigma ii is essentially just a number sigma I for I equal to 1 to r. Okay, they are the singular values of the matrix A, and all non-diagonal entries of sigma are 0. And the entries of the matrix sigma can be actually ordered so that the largest one is the first one, then the second one, and so on. And they're all they're all non-negative, so that at least their minimum value is at least 0. Okay, and then furthermore, columns of U are the left singular vectors of A, and columns of V are the right singular vectors of A. Well, so this is too much of mathematical definition. How many of you have, can you raise hands, how many of you have studied singular value decomposition in somewhat detail before?
Like, I don't know, this is the first time I'm hearing this term, singular value decomposition.
Okay, so those who have, can you just raise hands? Others can, okay, so a few, right? So 4 or 5 of you, but let's see. I mean, this is a concept which will take some time. So let's go through this. So the decomposition, you can think of this decomposition in the following way. So M is of course A is of course M cross N, and then U is M cross M. V transpose is N cross N. Now whether M is bigger or N is bigger, that doesn't matter. We will see that maybe N is bigger or maybe M is bigger. We'll figure this out. It will not actually make a difference. But what happens is, we said A is rank R. So if it has rank R, then there will be R positive singular values. So they are the diagonal entries, sigma 1 to sigma R. Okay. And then even though there could be more diagonal entries here, they will all be 0 because the rank is R. Okay. And everything else in sigma are 0. Now this means since these columns are all 0, these rows are all 0, well, when you multiply M cross M with M cross N here, these 0 columns and rows will not contribute to anything. So essentially, the columns after R for U will not contribute to anything. So the matrix A can be also reconstructed in the following way. This is an M cross R, R cross R, R cross N, where now my sigma is a square diagonal matrix. Okay, so square diagonal matrix when sigma 1 to sigma R are just the diagonal entries, and they're all positive diagonal entries. Okay, and they're ordered. Sigma 1 is the largest, sigma R is the smallest. All right. and then the columns of U are still orthogonal and they have norm 1, each of them have norm 1 and so on. All right. So this is how we will usually look at singular value decomposition, although the extended definition can be the thing that we heard first. Okay. So yeah, essentially, if you remember our discussion on linear algebra, somebody has a question?
So next is
somebody was speaking something that's interesting. All right. So so what we have is yeah, if you remember the discussion 2 classes ago, the columns are orthogonal and they can be thought of as an alternative basis, right? So they can be thought of as an alternative basis for the data points, which are essentially the matrix A. Okay, so we will actually think about or present multiple ways to perceive this. So from this, what you get is it is equivalent not to consider the columns after the rth column of U, since the singular values are 0 after sigma r. Okay, having done up to this, we will actually do some hands-on, because otherwise, yeah, otherwise we will have trouble. So let's actually start with that. Okay, just a moment. So, okay, can you see my screen?
yes, sir.
Okay. So what I have done here, so we'll actually try to play around a bit. What I've done here is,
Sir, may I ask a question?
yes.
Yes, sir. In your course, I have seen that you prefer np.dot instead of np.matmul. So does np.dot provide any significant advantages over np.matmul?
Oh, that I don't know.
Okay, so we
It's
can
just, I mean, one can also actually use the dot in the middle, and one can, there is another operator. Which, so star is the element wise multiplication, but there is another operator which probably is something like a percentage star percentage or something. I don't know. I mean, there is another, so there are multiple operators for this. I really don't know. Yeah,
Okay.
so whether there is any difference. All right, so let's get started. So these are some imports, because I plan to draw something on 3D also, but mostly our life today will be based on 2D, because 3D will be difficult to view. So let's actually do that. So yeah, okay. So I've done some. No, have I? Oh, hold on. Let me just you know, clear this and close this, save it. Okay, close this and then restart this again. All right, just to make sure that. Okay, so I have now I actually want two-dimensional 20 points. Okay, so let's start with our A, which is 2 cross 20. Obviously, this is never going to happen, right? You are never going to have two-dimensional points, but let's say 2 cross 20 to start with. Now, one point I wanted to mention here, what is a matrix? So why are matrices important, or what are the uses of matrix? Well, you already know many things, but if you think about it, most often a matrix is either a kind of a transformation, or equivalently you can say weights, right? So weights of vectors, or weights of the different dimensions, so which is like a transformation. Or a matrix is simply a collection of vectors stacked one after another, right? So when we work with data, if the matrix is our data, then it is just a collection of vectors or collection of data points. When our matrix is actually doing some transformation, or basically weights or learning something and things like that, or doing anything like that, then it's a transformation. So there are essentially two uses of matrices here. In this case, let's say our matrix is a data collection. So I have 20 data points, two-dimensional data points each. Now let's actually, yeah, so I have printed them so that I only print up to two points after decimal. It's just a default option set. Now, yeah, so this is this, and I can actually, from NumPy linear algebra, I can actually do singular value decomposition. This full matrices equal to false means I only want SVD done up to my rank. I don't want the full SVD. You remember we drew two pictures. One was M cross M, M cross N, N cross N, and then we had M cross R cross R, then R cross N. So we are doing the second one. There is no point doing the full one computationally. So we'll do the second one, and let's also actually print out. So U is this, which means U is a 2 cross 2 matrix. There are two vectors. Okay, S is sigma. Okay, we will not write sigma, we'll write S, singular values, and our V transpose is this. So that doesn't really visualize anything, right? So now we will visualize things. Okay, so what we will do now is I will switch this off for now. Okay, I'll switch this off for now. So let me actually, yeah, I mean, I can as well draw this and tell you not to look at it, but it will be clutter free if I switch this off completely. All right, so I actually have set random colors for every point, and I'm essentially plotting the points. So these are my points in 2D, okay? So these are my points in 2D. These are actually random points. So these are the points in 2D. Now, what I want to do is I want to actually draw the singular vectors, left singular vectors, also on the same points. Since I have already set my A, that's not going to change. So here I will draw the singular vectors. Okay. Let's draw the singular vectors. So these two are my singular vectors now. Okay. So you see the singular vectors are essentially, I mean, they are the vectors, right? So they are just from 0, and they're also unit norm. They also have unit norm. So the length is 1. And what do you see? What else do you see in the singular vectors?
They're orthogonal.
They are orthogonal, right? So as if we have just, I mean, we also had orthogonal axis, right? So our x-axis was this and y-axis was this. So singular vectors are essentially just another set of axes. Okay, so they're also orthogonal. However, what is not clear from this is whether we have simply rotated it or we have also flipped it a bit. Maybe we have flipped it a bit. That will be clear from what our U are, right? So the first one is minus 0.66 minus 0.75. So the first one is this. So the first singular vector is this, and the second singular vector is minus 0.75 plus 0.66. So the second singular vector is this. So yeah, I mean, like their orientation has changed a bit. I mean, become opposite. So the x I mean, if you think that x-axis went to the first singular vector, y-axis went to the second singular vector. I mean, it's not right to think that way, but if you think of this just as a change of basis, then it has also flipped it. But that is not all that we want to do. So what else does this signify? Okay. So now let's look at the points. Okay, let's look at the points. The points are like this. So one point is pretty far apart here. Okay, and there are some points on this side, some points on this side, and all. Now the singular vectors are unit norm, but we also have the singular values, which are scaling factors for the singular vectors. Okay, it's analogous to, we will see the relationship a little bit later. This is analogous to eigenvectors and eigenvalues. They're not eigenvectors and eigenvalues. We are not working with square matrices, right? But it is analogous to something like that. That the singular vectors also have weights, and the weights are the singular values. So instead of simply drawing the singular vectors, if we draw the singular vectors with their weights. Okay, so what I'm doing here, instead of drawing u, I'm actually drawing u multiplied by the corresponding s. Okay, so let's just do that. It has gone a bit outside. Now I have to, let's change the limits a bit. I tried to do this auto, but somehow it was giving me a lot of trouble. So let's actually do this. Yeah. So now you see what has happened is, well, this is the first singular vector. This is the second singular vector. If you, instead of singular vectors, if you say principal components, you can say this is the first principal component, this is the second principal component. Okay, now more intuitions behind this. What does this really mean? This means that the data points, okay, because we had this few things which are a bit far apart here, this singular vector got a higher scaling factor, okay, and towards this direction the points were not really so much, and so that's why we got a smaller scaling factor. Now let's actually experiment a bit more. Instead of a as it is, let us do the following. Let us say a equal to, so I'm not changing my original a, that is random, but I have got it, so it's not, I'm not changing it. So let's do the following. Let's actually scale the two singular the data points of a by the following factors. Okay, and let's say a, and then let's compute our singular values. Now what is happening, my first direction, what I have done essentially is, let's actually go to this picture. Yeah, what I have done essentially is that I have the same points, but I have squeezed the y part a lot. Okay, and the same points I have squeezed the y part a lot, and then as you see, it looks like the main direction is similar to, almost similar to the x direction. I mean, either positive or negative. The negative doesn't really matter. You could also already also have it in this way, and then the matrix U could be or matrix V could be multiplied by a negative factor. So that's not a problem, but the y factor is much smaller. Now, what is happening here? This in a two-dimensional case is not so easy to understand, but when you come from a very high-dimensional case, some of your directions are more important and some of your directions are less important. If you have to compare the data points here, let's say, is this point very far apart from this green point or yellow point maybe, right? So this yellow and this is probably blue or some dark blue kind of a thing. So this yellow and blue, they are very far apart, right? But their y direction is not far apart, their x direction is far apart. So what, and the x direction has a much higher scaling factor, or near x direction, the first singular vector has a much higher scaling factor. So what it means is that the second singular vector is not so important. You could as well discard it and compare the points just on the first singular vector. So if you simply project the points on the first singular vector, you're going to have this, then this will come here, this will come here, this will come here. So you will get this difference pretty much, right? You will get this difference pretty much. Along this axis or along this direction, either y or a slightly slanted second singular vector, you actually don't have much difference. So that direction is not giving you much information. So that is the primary idea behind principal components, the higher principal components with higher singular values having higher weightage. All right. So now this, of course, I synthesized my nice looking, I synthesized my nice looking vector here. So let's go back to, I'm sorry, oh, my A was already this. Ooh, that's a problem. I destroyed my A. Okay, so I'll start afresh. Maybe I should have done a B or something. Yeah. Yeah, okay, fine. I'll just make this. So yeah, so this is what we would normally have. These are the scaled singular vectors, and these are my data points. Now let's go back to our slides again, and we'll come back to some more. We'll come back to some more. Yeah, we'll come back to some more experiments in a while. Okay, so why are singular vectors useful? Because they are useful in giving us low rank approximation or lower dimensional approximations. How? So let's say we already showed intuitively that the largest singular values are most significant, right? And largest singular, I mean, corresponding singular vectors are also the principal components are more significant components. And ones in the tail are not significant. So we think of them as noise. So what we do? We discard the singular values after some kth. Now this k will be chosen by us. In a two-dimensional case, what I was explaining is, well, you can, let's say you can discard the second singular value. Only the first one is important. Well, that's the toy case. But let's say if you're coming from a very high dimensional scenario, maybe you take the first 200 singular values, the first 500 singular values, something like that. So discard the singular values after the kth and the corresponding columns of u and v. That means you only take the first k columns of u, first k columns of v, and the k cross k submatrix of sigma. Then you can do the following. A, the original data matrix A, which is u sigma v transpose, can be approximated by AK, okay, which is uk sigma k vk transpose, where, okay, where this uk sigma k and vk are my shortened matrices. Okay, so uk means only the first k columns of u. They're still orthogonal, so they are still the same, but now this matrix will have rank k. What is the significance of rank here? Conceptually, rank in this case would conceptually it's more like there are k distinct concepts in the data. Okay, so there are k distinct concepts in the data. Okay, if you are only taking one, the first singular vector, you are only considering all points along one axis, one particular singular vector which can be your axis, right? So you are actually taking one concept, so, or one component. So here rank k means you are considering your data in k components or k concepts. Now this is what a rank k approximation of our original data. However, there is a computational problem here. This matrix, if you simply look at the dimensions, this is m cross k, k cross k, k cross n. This is still, the dimension is still in the original dimension. So I got an approximation, but it is low rank, but size wise the matrix has not changed. Well, in fact, it has become worse because my A typically is a sparse matrix. Any real data is typically sparse. Okay, so this is a sparse matrix, so I wouldn't really take much space to store this. I mean, with respect to m and n, I will actually take much smaller space. But this is not a sparse matrix anymore. UK sigma k vk, sigma k is diagonal, but uk and vk are not sparse. So this is not a sparse matrix anymore. And then this is going to be a dense matrix. So although conceptually this is a low rank approximation of A, this is not going to be useful for us computationally. So what should we do for that? So before going there, let's actually have a look at some other ways of looking at SVD. So let's say this matrix A is m cross n, right? And if you define C to be A transpose, okay, then it's an m cross m symmetric matrix. Intuitively, you can think of this as m cross n is a matrix where maybe you have your users and movies. Users are rows, movies are columns, terms are rows, documents are columns. Okay, so something of that sort. Now, if you say A transpose, then you are doing a row cross row M cross M symmetric matrix, where you are actually capturing the relationship between different users or different terms or different rows. Okay, we will actually see that later in some other class. Now this is actually a symmetric matrix, and hence so yeah, for example, it can be co-occurrence count for rows of A. Now hence you can actually do an eigen decomposition of C, and the eigen decomposition of C has a relationship with the singular value decomposition of A. So you can simply write A as U sigma V transpose, again A as U sigma V transpose whole transpose. Now V is orthogonal, so V transpose transpose, so this whole transpose becomes V sigma transpose U transpose. V transpose V, V is orthogonal, so V transpose V is the identity matrix. Okay, so U sigma sigma transpose, so sigma is diagonal matrix, so sigma sigma transpose is simply sigma square. Sigma square means, well, it's just the diagonal entry is squared, and then it becomes U sigma square U transpose. So this is the eigen decomposition of C. So then what do we get? We get that the columns of U are the eigenvectors of C, our known concept. And sigma square is also diagonal with entries, each entry becoming square, which are the eigenvalues of C. So if you take the row cross row symmetric matrix by AA transpose for any matrix, so A doesn't have to be a special matrix, right? A can be any M cross N matrix. If you do this, then U is your U, the matrix, U gives you the eigenvectors of C, and sigma gives you, sigma square rather gives you the eigenvalues of C. All right. So essentially, when your goal is to capture the relationship between different dimensions, then you can do this, or you can actually do it from A, but what you are getting are, you are getting your eigenvalue, eigenvectors and eigenvalues. Now, how do we do dimension reduction using singular value decomposition? So for that, let's actually try to rewrite the formulas a bit again. So we have A equal to, okay, we have A equal to U sigma V transpose. Since U is orthogonal, what if we multiply U transpose to the left, right? So then we get U transpose U sigma V transpose, and U transpose U is identity because U is orthogonal. Just, I hope you are getting it right. So if you're not getting it, I'll just remind you why. U is orthogonal, that means any two columns have dot product 0, and two columns, so any single column with itself has dot product 1, right? So that's orthogonality. Now U transpose U essentially means you are multiplying each row with each column for each entry of the matrix. So if every entry other than the diagonal will become 0 and the diagonal will become 1. Okay, so this will give you U transpose A is actually sigma V transpose. And then if you multiply here with sigma inverse, which is element wise inverse of the diagonal matrix sigma, okay, then what you have is sigma inverse U transpose A is essentially V transpose. Now, this means the following. Let's go back to, okay, oh yeah, so just remember this particular thing. U transpose A equal to sigma V transpose, right? So let's just go back to, okay, I'll have to share again. Let's just go back to our previous formula here. Okay, here. So here what we started with, this is our U. This is still full, I mean, rank, whatever our rank is, we have not curtailed it to some K. So this is our U, this is our sigma, this is our V transpose, right? Now, sigma, so the sigma we already intuitively figured that these are the scaling factors. Sigma 1 is the scaling factor for the first singular vector or first principal component, and second one, and so on, right? So we understand this is more like a change of basis. Okay, how we look at it, instead of looking at the data in the original frame, we would do better to maybe look at it in the frame where my first axis is very important, the second axis is the next important, and so on, right? So this is more like a change of basis. What are V? What are the columns of this matrix V transpose? Any guess? If you start with A, which are your data points, that means the each column is essentially a vector, a data point that you are plotting, right? So A is, each column is a data point. Okay, M are your features or dimensions, right? So M different features or M different dimensions. What are these? This is my V transpose. And we saw that sigma V transpose is same as U transpose A. So this matrix is R dimensional times N. That means we still have N columns, but now in R dimensions. Okay, so we have N columns in R dimensions. So this can be thought of, if you are working with data, this can be thought of as a different representation of your data. Okay, you have a different representation of your data. In what frame of reference? Well, you have this data. If you scale the data, if you do sigma V transpose, okay, if you scale the data, then you get something. And then again, if you rotate or apply a transformation into M dimensions, so now what do you have? Sigma V transpose is R cross N. So you have your data in R dimensions. Okay, the matrix has rank R, you have data in R dimensions. Now if you transform into M dimension, then you get back your original representation which you got in real life. We will actually show this in the hands-on in the notebook with our set of points. But what it means is, now instead of R, if you transform this to a much lower rank, let's say K, so R could be very large like millions or thousands, but K can be like a few hundreds. So if you transform this into a very small dimension, you can actually do the same. So we want this part to be our low dimensional representation, or some modification of this part, but essentially something like this. Okay, so let's go back there. Okay, so let's go back there and I'll share it again. Yeah. Okay, so what we already saw was V transpose is essentially sigma inverse U transpose A. Now this is in the full rank, but now we are saying, okay, we will not consider all our singular vectors, right? So what we want to do, the matrix UK is M cross K. Now K is a smaller number, I mean like 100 or 500 or something. Each row represents a feature in the K dimension. In the full rank, each row is a feature represented in terms of all my singular vectors, but here each row is a feature represented in terms of my K singular vectors. So why don't we just map to my K singular vector? So we project using UK transpose. Okay, so UK transpose, and maybe we add the scaling factor sigma K. But why sigma K or not sigma K inverse, or why sigma K at all? Well, there are variations here. So now, but then if you do this, what happens is sigma K UK transpose A is K cross N, then each data point is mapped to K dimensions. So if you started with, let's say, 1 million cross 1 billion data, 1 million dimension cross 1 billion, and now you have chosen a much smaller K, so maybe you have 500 dimension, but again 1 billion data points. These are dense, not sparse, but if K is very small, you will not be hurt, right? So that is the whole idea behind dimension reduction using SVD. There are other variants of this formula, just like from this, what we see, if you want to concentrate on V transpose, then you can actually do minus sigma to the power minus 1. But then obviously all your, I mean, you can simply take the V transpose. People have experimented numerically with sigma K to the power 0. This means just UK. Okay, so just project onto your singular vectors. Don't do any scaling. Okay, just project onto singular vectors. that people have done. Some people normalize the A before even computing SVD. So there are lots of options there. When we actually do movie recommendation, we will see some, depending on the problem in your hand or depending on the way the data comes, you may want to change certain things there. But essentially the idea is project onto your K most important directions or K first K singular vectors or first K principal components. All right. Any questions as of now? All right, fantastic. So let's move on. Maybe we'll have some questions a little bit later. Let's just do a quick recap of random projection. I will actually not do a recap. Let's try to understand the difference between random projection and SVD, or versus rather, right? So there are a lot of differences. So the point is, we do have different things to measure, right? One thing is how much information is retained after the dimension reduction. So we could do dimension reduction using random projection, we could do it using SVD or maybe some other method. So the point is how much information is retained. So retained variance, one of you actually pointed this out, some of the eigenvalues before and after mapping. Now, so that's one way to measure, okay, how much information is retained, how much variance is retained, okay, or some performance in some task. So obviously retaining variance may not be the only criteria. How does it work actually in real life? I mean, given some real data and their true answers, known answers or something like that, how does it actually work, right? So classification, information retrieval, similarity measurement. So these are all different aspects. Which one should you choose, right? Random projection or SVD? Efficiency, how fast is it? Okay. And feasibility, is it at all possible to compute, right? So all of these are different issues. Now, we will probably do CUR decomposition in the next class because I still have hands-on to show to you. So the points are, SVD probably retains more variance or performs slightly better, but random projection is more efficient. In some cases, it may happen that you cannot actually compute SVD. It will become very hard given the computational power you have and so on. But yeah, I mean, most often, if you can compute SVD and use SVD to reduce the dimension, it will probably give you better results. That is the general thumb rule. Okay, so now let's actually go back to the hands-on, and we have a few more things. What is that? Yeah. Okay. All right. So what we did there, okay, we had some data points. We saw our singular vectors. But then I mentioned to you that what are these and what are V, right? So the right singular vector. So let's actually do that. So let's actually draw the right side part of it. So let's first draw just the V. Okay, let's first draw just the V, and here my limits were 6, 6, 6, right? So let's actually keep the limits the same. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm simply going to V is 20. V is also 2 cross 20 here, right? So V is also 2 cross 20. I'm just going to, so that means you can interpret every column of V as a data point. Sorry, V transpose, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to plot that. Okay. Okay. Now it of course looks something like this. The reason for this is that I'm drawing it in a larger scale. Maybe if I set the scale size like smaller, you will feel better. Yeah, okay. So these are in different scales now, but you see the points here, right? Now, what are the relationship between these points and these points? You see that the colors are matching, right? So let's say there is a pink here, or a magenta, maybe this is a magenta maybe, and there is a magenta here or something like that. There is this color here, which is a bit in the outlier, and this color here, and so on, right? So I claim that we can actually do a one-to-one mapping between these data points and these data points. We have actually explained this also. But to show you that, we need to do something more interesting. So yeah, so let's actually draw both in the same scale. However, obviously, the scales are very different. The points are much more scattered here, and here they are not so scattered because I need the scaling factor. In my particular case here, the scaling factors were high. So 5.62 and 3.01. So instead of plotting this V, now I plot the V multiplied by sigma. Okay, so now they look more similar. So on the left side, I have my original data points from A. On the right side, I have sigma V transpose. Now, can you see any relationship between this scatter plot and this scatter plot? Okay, anyone?
The principal axis become X and Y, right?
Right, and in fact, probably they are a bit flipped also. Let me just check.
Reflected also.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, they can be reflected. So this is 0.91, minus 0.9, minus 0.4. That is the first one. So this is the first one. This is my first axis. This is the second axis. And in this case, obviously, I mean, we have something else. So now remember, we had V, then we scaled. Scaling with a diagonal matrix, just scaling, right? It's a linear transformation. It is just scaling. So just scaling gave us this. But if you carefully look at it, the relative positions, this point, the red point and the green point, this point, the red point and the green point, well, they're just a flipped and rotated, right? This blue point, this almost black point, this blue point, this almost black point, they're also flipped and rotated, right? Okay, so now obviously, if I finish this by, I mean, mathematically also that is the obvious thing. Now, if I simply multiply by U, I'm going to get my original data points, right? So what it means is the matrix V, so what is happening? You start with your original data points A. The idea behind singular value decomposition is that our frame of reference, our original axis, is not the ideal. Okay, the data will be better represented along the singular vectors. Okay, and that representation is this representation. Okay, that representation is this representation. These are along the singular vectors. Okay, now what we do, if we complete the transformation, opposite transformation, right? If we complete the opposite transformation, then we go back to, so basically some rotation, flipping doesn't matter really, some rotation, then we go back to our original data point. So essentially it is nothing much. Essentially it is some scaling, some rotation. Okay, one representation, scaling, rotation, that's all you are doing from yeah, I mean, like a transformed or reduced dimension or whatever it is, or the original dimension. Obviously, in this case, of course, we did not reduce dimension because we cannot really see if we reduce to one dimension. But in a real case, your U or V or sigma, you will actually take a small k and you will also do a transformation, right? So you will actually reduce dimension and you will see your same data points from a different frame of view. Okay, just to finish it off, I have also tried to do some 3D plotting, and let's say, so instead of 2 cross 20, if I say 3 cross 20, right? So if I say 3 cross 20, and I have actually, yeah, maybe we'll not finish it. I have just, yeah, so let's say B is this matrix and A is this matrix. Okay, so what I have done is I have purposefully made one of the directions very small. Okay, so these are my three singular vectors along, this is the XYZ, these are my three singular vectors. and the singular values are 4 point something, 3 point something, and the third one is very small. Okay, now I have not completed this. Maybe you can. I'll just, once I pass you the notebook. The point here is, if you look at these points, obviously from the picture it may not be completely clear, but here is your 0, here is your 0. So your 0, 0 is somewhere in the middle, right? So the plane, XY plane is somewhere like this. This is your XY plane, right? So this is your XY plane, and the points are mostly on the XY plane. So I have synthesized it in a way so that the Z direction doesn't really matter. So what happens if you project them onto the first two directions or first two principal components? You will essentially look at it like this. So you will retain most information, because the information along the Z axis or along the third principal component was not really much. And you see that they have similar, similar scaling factors. So what you can do is you can actually try this out. Yeah, you can actually try this out with your, just finish this portion of the code similar to what we did, except that, yeah, in case of you cannot draw arrow, you have to draw a quiver and all these things. Okay, so this is what you may want to do on your own. All right, so I guess yeah, so this is pretty much what I wanted to cover at this point. Do you have any question? All right, then next class what we will do is we will quickly finish CUR decomposition. It is not so famous, but it's a fast replacement of SVD if you cannot do SVD. So that's why it's nice to know, because there is always some, very big data problem and you want to do something quickly. So we'll look at that, and then we'll move on to recommender systems. So we'll first study some general recommender systems, and then we'll come to how to use recommender systems using matrix factorization techniques and so on. Probably we'll finish this either in the next class or we'll take 2 more classes. Okay, so that's that's pretty much it. I'll stop the recording. Yes.
Sir, I have doubt in over the last class, that is the Johnson-Lindner-Strauss lemma.
Right. So so on Monday we are actually having a session.
Okay, sir.
Okay, yeah. So